if I could begin by asking, what is the role of corporate affairs in a multinational company like SABMiller?
Well, the role of corporate affairs is really to build and protect the reputation of SABMiller and its subsidiary companies with all of our key stakeholders, both internally and externally. If we think about those stakeholders, they range from our investors, our financial analysts, the governments around the world, civil society, NGOs, the media, and importantly, of course, our employees and our partners.
And how do you build your reputation amongst those stakeholders in order to manage risk?
Well, as a company, we believe that reputation is indivisible. In fact, that's one of our 5 values. And what that actually means is that we think our reputation is really sort of set by the actions of all of the individuals across the company. So one of our primary roles in corporate affairs is to ensure that the organisation remembers that and thinks about that when it goes about its business. I think another kind of important part of our role is also to make sure that our stakeholders understand our business, understand our operations and our strategy. Because all of our research shows that when people do understand us, when they are familiar with us, then they actually respond more favourably to us. And of course, our important audience of investors and analysts, it's critical that they understand the business and its operations so that they can put a fair value on our shares. I guess the other important parts of our role are really around specific events and transactions. So, for instance, something like the Grolsch acquisition. In corporate affairs, we would develop and execute the strategies that surround those types of acquisitions. We would work with particular stakeholder groups. An example at the moment would be we're working with our African colleagues to really kind of show how business can tackle some of the poverty alleviation issues through business development. And I guess the third area where we would work is around sort of CSI projects, corporate social investment projects. A good example would be some of the enterprise work we're doing down in South Africa on the Kickstart brand.
So what are the biggest challenges to your licence to operate as an international brewer?
Well, of course, society expects that companies like ourselves should contribute to tackling some of the big issues, environmental and societal issues. SABMiller does operate in some controversial markets in Africa and in South America, and of course some people believe that we produce a controversial product. Against that, brewing is a very local business. You know, we source locally, we brew locally, and we sell locally. And that really gives us the opportunity in many of our developing markets to invest in local agriculture, to invest in local distribution, to invest in local retail outlets, and to invest in local people to develop their skills and capabilities. And in that way, we think we really are adding to the local economy, and we're tackling some of the issues of poverty and poverty alleviation.
But what about the problems associated with alcohol?
Well, we have what we call our 10 Sustainable Development Priorities, and those range from the environment through to human rights, to HIV/AIDS and to corporate social investment. But I guess the most important one is around responsible consumption. We brew beer for the enjoyment of our adult consumers. And yes, we are concerned that a small number of consumers do abuse their alcohol consumption. And we have many programs around the world where we work with partners to tackle some of the causes and the effects of that irresponsible consumption. In terms of our own behaviours, our external marketing and advertising has to comply with a very stringent internal code of commercial communication. And we're currently working on a range of communications materials which will help consumers to make more informed decisions when they consume alcohol.
And to what extent are ethics important in the way that you conduct business around the world?
Ethics are very important. I think we can say that they are deeply embedded in the way we do business. We have a small number of central group policies, and these are supplemented by a series of local policies. I think this is very important because the local policies have to be adapted to local conditions, local situations, and that's the approach we take. We then require all managers twice a year to sign that they are applying those policies, and periodically we audit their compliance with them from the centre.
But how difficult is it to actually behave ethically on a daily basis?
Well, I think it's difficult, but I don't think that we have a problem in the organisation because, as I say, it is one of our deeply embedded beliefs.
What are the greatest environmental challenges which you face as a business, and what, if anything, can you actually do about them?
Well, I guess the environmental problems that we have are things like climate change, which is common to many businesses, packaging, waste disposal, but I suppose the one that is the most critical to us is the whole issue of water usage. You know, water, as we see around the world, is becoming more stressed in a number of places. At the moment, our breweries do have some of the best performance of any of the brewers in the world, but we're not satisfied with that, and we are driving to improve the performance of many of our breweries. In addition, we're increasingly looking at our supply chain and how can we work with particularly our farmers and the agricultural end to improve their water usage. And one of the other areas that we want to target is the communities around our breweries. How can we help them to ensure that we're maximising water usage for our breweries' use and the local community?
So what do your stakeholders think of SABMiller and your performance as a company?
Well, to ensure that we get a good independent read on that, we do research around the world on an annual basis in a variety of different countries. Not surprisingly, I think we see that consumers are increasingly concerned about responsible alcohol consumption and some of the environmental issues that we've talked about. Pleasingly, we do score higher than most of our competitors in most of our markets, and the things that really stand out are the quality of our products, the contribution that we make to new markets, and I think overall the most important thing is that we score very highly on trust. People trust the business and trust what we do.